we got a supermoss discovered that could help sustain life on Mars. The super resilient moss sprang back to life within seconds after being zapped with radiation, dehydrated, and even frozen. That is quite promising. Picture Chinese Academy of Sciences, the innovation. I'm gonna save this image. Scientists in China have discovered a super moss that could help sustain life on Mars. The super resilient Syntrichia caninervis moss was found in the desert in the western regions of Xinjiang and could help sustain colonies on the Red Planet, according to experts at the Chinese Academy of Sciences. As I said some time before, even to this day, there are still thousands, if not tens, if not hundreds of thousands of unknown life species that inhabit the Earth we do not know anything about, including plants, microorganisms, some bigger organisms, trees, flowers. Like there's still so many, or there's still so much on this planet we have not discovered yet, or we will never discover, because it maybe gone extinct over the last century or so. Moss is a very absorbent plant and can be hauled more than its own body weight in water. The supermoss Syntrichia caninervis in China. Chinese Academy of Sciences, the innovation, yes it is. When scientists dried out this particular species of moss and then rehydrated it, it sprang back to life within seconds. They also froze it and zapped it with radiation, trying to recreate conditions on Mars, and the moss still came back to life, photosynthesizing and growing as normal. Once on Mars, the scientist says it could help to make oxygen, suck up CO2 and keep soil fertile. Yes. For fertilization, obviously, you probably know what's going to be used. Obviously some artificial fertilizers as well as something more natural. I'm not gonna go into more details because hey, we already discussed shit earlier, so we got enough of the science for today. Once on Mars, the scientist says it could help to make oxygen, suck up CO2 and keep soil fertile. Yes, we read this. They found that even after losing more than 98% of its water content, the moss was able to recover within seconds when it was rehydrated. That is very promising. Let's read a bit more. It can also regenerate after being stored in a freezer at minus 80% degrees Celsius. That is more than promising. As you know, Mars weather is quite different than the one on the Earth. I think any usual Mars temperature can go from, what was it, 18 degrees Celsius to like 26 degrees Celsius to all the way down to like minus 50 degrees Celsius because of its very tiny atmosphere, because of its atmosphere that is simply not thick enough. And obviously we're gonna have to find a way to thicken up the atmosphere. That is going to be quite hard because, as we all know it, even the Earth atmosphere is shrinking a little bit, only a little bit, nothing too crazy. However, the Earth's atmosphere is also losing its thickness little by little. And little by little, I mean in really microscopic amounts. Obviously, Mars is probably the same, and we have to find a way to kinda give it an atmosphere. Probably if we planted a bunch of these things, if we managed to get a working water source, it would probably gain a better atmosphere. If we start to emit a little bit of CO2, I'm not quite sure how much CO2 there is on Mars though. If we can get photosynthesis going on in some good quantity, then the life on Mars is going to be much closer to us now, because I believe that on Earth there are some organisms that will be already able to withstand Mars even with little amounts of oxygen. The nature adapts to the situations much faster than humans nowadays. The moss is found in Xinjiang, Tibet, a Californian desert, the Middle East and polar regions. So it's even in the polar regions. That's interesting. Because I actually never heard of any like mosses or anything like that being on polar regions. I mean, when we talk about polar regions, I think of Antarctica and, ice, snow, penguins, and some rocky coastline, which is sometimes relatively not really hot, but it has relatively good temperatures and it's not like minus 50 degrees Celsius. Racing to Mars. The race to outer space has spurred China and the United States to launch exploration plans in recent years. Last month, China retrieved samples from the far side of the moon and brought them back to Earth in a world first. Really, they are already back. Interesting. I read about that. However, I did not know they were already back. That's really positive news. Those samples may tell them what can be built on the far side of the moon to help them get to Mars more easily. In the US, NASA has formulated a 20-year plan for Mars, seeking answers as to whether the red planet is habitable for humans. Most likely it is. However, there are challenges to the life on Mars. One of the challenges is the tectonic sphere on Mars. Mars tectonic sphere does not work like the one on Earth. I believe it is much thicker than the one on Earth. Therefore, therefore the ground, to put it very bluntly, very unscientific wise, basically the ground does not rotate, alright? The ground does not really move around, does not transform, it is stale, which does not really help life, because for life, the ground should always move, always there should be some rotational cycles and it should move around so it keeps being fresh. I know this is very unscientific, but hey, I'm not a scientist, luckily. Unfortunately. So the tectonic sphere is one problem. We will probably won't be able to solve it unless we would be able to heat up the Mars's core, which, I mean, we cannot even do that to our own core. We cannot control the core's temperature, so I don't think that's possible in the upcoming 100 years, but hey, you never know. You never know what AI might discover. Anyways, the other difficulty is obviously the radiation. There's radiation on Mars. The atmosphere is simply not enough to protect the life on Mars from sustaining the radiation hits from sun. On Earth we have our ozone sphere to protect us from some nasty UV sunlight and some other stuff from sun as well. Recently the UV sphere was weakening. I heard it's been regenerating in some parts lately, so that's very good, that's very positive. A lot of people do not realize just how important the ozone sphere is to Earth. A lot of people simply just throw it right into the bunch with the climate change and stuff. They just call it a hoax, and that's a very fatal mistake. Because if the ozone sphere would be to get destroyed, then it would cause massive hardship to the humans especially. Nature would probably adapt, however, then humans would face a lot of hardships. And they would probably move to the places where the ozone sphere would still remain. That would create a lot of conflicts, etc., etc. Not good times. Obviously, the other problem is the time. The time to reach Mars. If we are ever able to actually make a colony there, we need to have faster spaceships. We need to be able to get Mars within like 1 month, like 1 year is simply not sustainable. If anything goes wrong there, we need to be able to respond in a relative amount of time. We cannot just send a spaceship there and hope they will last for an entire year. Now, there are already been progresses on all sorts of possible space vessels and possible ways of space engines. I've heard also about some space engine, something Ion something engine. The one downside of it is that it only works in space, it does not work in atmosphere, which could work out if we were to build it or construct it on the moon and just have it, start from moon to Mars moons and, just have it go back and forth between Earth and Mars. It would be very fast. I heard it can get to the moon of Saturn in like 1 month or so. Really quick stuff. So there's one ID. There's been also progresses in the more liquid, liquid fuel. So maybe that will be a progress. However, the problem with liquid fuel is it is limited, and you have to be able to carry enough for you to actually sustain the thrust both to Mars and back to the Earth. Also, it would be quite expensive to refuel. So there you go. And there was one final, I forgot what was it. Oh yeah, we also have to figure out a way to, well, we'll probably figure it out eventually, like it's not that big of a deal. We already have a defense system against asteroids, so it should not be a problem to correct the A1 Mars moons from eventually crashing onto the planets, because if you do not know, one of Mars's moons is set to collide with Mars in the far future. I think what was it, like millions years after, or like 200,000 years after, millions years after, not quite sure. I would have to read about it. I'm not sure if it's Phobos or the other moon. I'm not sure if I did not actually mistake it for another moon's, not who knows. But yeah, it's going to be very exciting upcoming years for the exploration of space. Hopefully we did not mess it up by having a World War III for nuclear warfare. That would probably not be good for humanity. Hopefully it does not happen, and hopefully we'll be able to start the terraforming Mars in the next 10 years. The terraforming process is set to take for millennia, if not hundreds of thousand years. It depends. We as humans are a very radical species. We progress incredibly much more faster than anything that have ever inhabited the Earth. Life took many millions, if not billions of years to develop into complex life forms like trilobites, like these early fishes, early sharks. In Devon, I think it was Devon, not quite sure. Then eventually into the life slowly spread out of the sea into the land. It took millions of years to fertilize the earth and to have plants grow there. Then eventually then came the animals on the land. Then came the dinosaurs and eventually mammals as well. So yeah, however, we as a human species are able to really transform the earth to our liking much faster than anything that we ever seen. So I could see that Mars terraformation could go much faster depending on just how much funds will be released for that. If the terraformation of Mars gets enough funding, then I believe this could go much more faster than you would expect. We'll see, we'll have to see about that. So yeah, that's about everything I wanted to say. Hopefully we'll be able to colonize Mars soon. Oh, one last thing I forgot to mention is the gravity. The gravity on Mars is much lighter than on the Earth, which will cause problems for your bones and for your body if you stay there for too long. You have to do an extensive amount of training, and even that will not completely prevent you from having consequences eventually. So that is one other thing that has to be thought about and has to be dealt with. So that's also why I'm saying that we need a faster vehicles, faster spaceships to actually reach the Mars. I think yeah, that is everything I wanted to say about it. Quite excited, and hope it's going to be a fast process and we'll be able to explore the outer solar system by the end of 2070s, as I once predicted.